Stop the war.
Total devastation.
Oh my God. It appears that there's something like shadowy figures. I think I'm gonna head back now. Everyone needs to get out of here right now. Lucas, if you could just come back, please. Oh my God.
When you invade a place for its resources, you wipe out the indigenous population.
Is at war.
Tensions are escalating between the U.S. and Iran as an American warship sails toward the Middle East. U.S. aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln has officially left the Mediterranean Sea and passed through Egypt's Suez Canal.
The warship was deployed earlier this week in response to threats from Iran. The Mideast country has dismissed the move, accusing the U.S. of engaging in psychological warfare. Joining us now is CBS News State Department reporter Christina Ruffini with the very latest from Washington. Good to see you, Christina.
Morning, guys. How are you?
So the deployment of this warship to the Middle East comes as the U.S. is also imposing additional sanctions on Iran. So what's behind the Trump administration's decision? They've always saber-rattled, but why are they doing this now, and what exactly are these sanctions targeting?
So the new sanctions go after Iran's metal exports: aluminum, steel, copper, iron. If you remember, the U.S. has already targeted Iranian oil production, and those two natural resources make up the lifeblood of basically what remains of Iran's economy. This, of course, was in response to the news this week that Iran said it's going to stop complying with parts of the nuclear agreement. This is a sector of the economy the U.S. hasn't really targeted before, but it's keeping with what it calls its maximum pressure campaign to get Iran to change its behavior and, quote, act like a more normal country. But normal countries are able to export their natural resources onto the global market, and this will certainly make it harder for Iran to do so.
So, Christine, have we seen anything happen so far? I know that Iran said that it was ready to start to process some of the nuclear material that it has, but have they actually done anything?
So they're not making a nuclear weapon. I think some people hear this and think, oh my gosh, they're making a bomb. That's not really what they're going to do. What they are doing for the moment is holding on to more heavy water and enriched uranium. These are elements that you need to make a nuclear weapon. What the JCPOA did, and that's the Iran nuclear agreement, was it limited the amount of time that it would take for Iran to go from zero to having a bomb. That's called a breakout time. They wanted to make sure that Iran was at least a year away from having that capacity if it changed its mind and all of a sudden wanted to make a weapon. Now, Iran is saying it might be taking steps to shorten that breakout time. The U.S. has said that would be a very serious concern, but the U.S. is no longer in the nuclear deal, and it's the result of U.S. sanctions that have caused Iran to take these steps because, from their view, they say that the U.S. limited basically all. It's a carrot and stick deal, right? And the U.S. took away all the carrots, and Iran says it's sick of getting the short end of the stick, basically.
The other developing story, the U.S. sending an aircraft carrier group to the Middle East to send what it calls a clear message to Iran. The USS Abraham Lincoln and support ships have been dispatched. The carrier was due to dock in Croatia on Wednesday. U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton says it is in response to troubling developments in the region. The latest U.S. effort aimed at increasing pressure on Iran. Gabriel Elizondo is live for us in Washington. So, Gabriel, this is part of a White House statement that was put out that explains this further. What did it say?
Yeah, it's a very unexpected and unusual statement from the White House. It came a little bit before 9 p.m. local time here in Washington on Sunday night. Totally unexpected. The statement was short, but it did mention that, and it's from John Bolton, the National Security Advisor, but it said, as you mentioned, the U.S. is going to be deploying the USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Force Group. It's an aircraft carrier plus some ships around it, plus some bombers to the Middle East region. And I want to read part of the statement that's key. It says, they're being sent to the region to, quote unquote, send a clear and unmistakable message to the Iranian regime that any attack on the United States' interests or on those of our allies will be met with unrelenting force. Statement just goes on to say, in part, the United States is not seeking war with the Iranian regime, but we are fully prepared to respond to any attack. Now, there's two key things that need to be brought up here. Number one is that this particular aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln, had already been deployed from the United States on April 1st. So it had already been on a deployment. And as you mentioned, it was supposed to be in Croatia, May 8th through 11th, docked there for some normal procedures. But it appears that now it's being diverted to the Middle East region. Now, it's not unusual for aircraft carriers and battle groups such as this to be deployed to the region, the Gulf region, as a deterrent to Iran. But what is unusual is this. This is a pretty significant deployment here with the bombers. It's not just a normal aircraft carrier. It's really a battle group, if you will. And also what's unusual is that normally the White House would not issue a statement with such bellicose language, basically saying we're sending these military assets to this region, specifically looking at you, Iran, which is essentially what John Bolton said there. I want to just conclude briefly that just within the last half hour, the Wall Street Journal newspaper here in the United States is reporting that this decision to move this aircraft carrier to the region was just made within the last couple days after meetings throughout the weekend, that according to the Wall Street Journal, at least one source that they have in their article that just came out said that this is due to new intelligence that's been received by the United States, new intelligence of Iran possibly moving some military assets around that could, according to the Wall Street Journal, jeopardize U.S. assets or U.S. Interests in the Gulf region. That, according to the Wall Street Journal. Beyond that, though, no other information. We did reach out to the Department of Defense. All they would do was confirm to us this deployment of this aircraft carrier and the bombers, but beyond that would not give us any more details.
I was talking to my family members yesterday, and while I was talking to them, I noticed that the news was on, and the news was Iran. I went to the Drudge Report this morning, and the news is Iran. One of the generals, if this guy's even real, we have no clue in the United States. Our government repealed the Smith-Mundt Act. I've talked about this a million times. They repealed the Smith-Mundt Act, which now allows them to use propaganda against you and all of us. If we lived in a real democracy, if we lived in a real republic where our government actually served us, it doesn't. We don't. Our own government wouldn't be using propaganda against us, but they do. So there's that. Look it up. It is not hard to find at all. Snopes is not a research tool. For people like us, when you have a theory and you're not sure about it, go to Snopes. If they debunk it, it's true. So there's that. Apparently, one of the military guys in Iran said warships and B-52s from America aren't considered a threat. They're considered targets. Remember that. We're seizing ships, allegedly, from North Korea, and we're sending planes and military vehicles to Iran. One of them is going to get hit. We will be at war. Before the end of this year, we will be at war with Iran, one way or another. And that means we've got another 9/11 type event coming to our shores. How fucked up is this? Seriously. Our own government is going to make us go to war with Iran. They will need another 9/11 event. They will need another Pearl Harbor. And they'll do it. And they're going to do it. I keep referring to the 2018 Economist cover that showed a mushroom cloud, the rider on a pale horse, death. I keep referring to that for a reason. Be ready. Be prepared.